Contact us to avail the combo offer of General Studies and Public Administration optional with 20% discount.
Yes, good morning everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning. Today we are going to have the Hindu analysis of 4th September 2021. Let us see which are the important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. Yes, these are the important articles. What we will do is, first of all, let us understand the context of all these articles. Let us take overview of all these articles and then we will discuss them one by one in detail. So, first of all, mains related development. First article on page number 6. Debacle in Afghanistan. Is it end of US as superpower? So, yes, what we are doing here in this table, we are not literally writing the name of the article now. Earlier we used to do like that. But what we are doing here in this particular table, we are providing in a simple language what is the content of that article. Okay, so on page number 6, there is article talking about whether it is end of US being a superpower because of, let's say, recent decision of exit from Afghanistan, and to some extent it is being called as a defeat of US as a superpower. Okay, so the questions on the leadership as a, let's say, US as a global leader is being raised here. We will understand that from GS2 paper international relations part, as well as those who are having PSI or optional subject. So it is important for them also. Then India and Russia friendship has stood the test of time, says Prime Minister. So he was addressing East Eurasian Forum Summit, or we can say meeting, which was a virtual meeting. Here our Prime Minister was emphasizing on how India-Russia relations, bilateral relations are deep, as well as the friendship that we have between two countries has stood the test of time. We will talk about that. So it is important, GS2 paper international relations. Then India-US sign project agreement on air-launched unmanned aerial vehicles. Okay, UAVs. So this is important because India-US has been involved in last one decade, especially in we can say that the co-development of defense-related equipments. Co-development. Use this word in your answers whenever we talk about India-US defense relationship. Okay, so this is important from GS2 international relations. You can see all the developments related to IR section largely in today's newspaper for mains related. Then prelims related development on page number 10. Experts flag diversion of fresh water from Brahmani river. It is talking about how such, let's say, diversion of fresh water is impacting mangrove forest located near the mouth of Brahmani river, which is let's say protected as Bhitar Kanika Wildlife Sanctuary or National Park. We will have look at that from environment and geography perspective. Then footprints of 3 dinosaur species found in Thar desert. So this is on first page, bottom of first page, the news. It is talking about during Jurassic period. So the dinosaurs existed in that area. Okay, so that particular region was related or located near to Tethys Sea. All these are mentioned in this article. We have to understand what is Tethys Sea, what was the time period at that time. Okay, so this is important from geography aspect. Then biological E vaccine gets nod for trial among children. This is a third such vaccine which has got, let's say, trial for among the children. So as a follow-up to COVID-19, we can take input here. And finally, practice prelims MCQs on today's current affairs. Yes, so first article, certainly not the end of the road for US. So the article written by a former diplomat. Yes, this is important because there will not be, let's say, may not be direct question, or there can be indirect question in GS2 paper IR section. You should be aware about all these arguments. The questions that are being raised here, first of all, you should understand the debacle in Afghanistan, US exit from Afghanistan, questions being raised on US President Biden's leadership here. Okay, so whether the leadership decisions by the newly elected president in the US are, let's say, to some extent in line with US regaining global leadership or not. So there had been some polls in US, and some of the citizens are in favor of leadership, some of the citizens are saying that the president should resign. So that's why it becomes important here. Now we should understand, whatever the decision taken by the US president at present regarding exit from Afghanistan, we should go back 20 years earlier. So 20 years earlier, 9/11 attacks that happened, and after that US needed to take some, let's say, harsh decisions when it tracked down those people who were responsible, terrorists who were responsible for such attack. They were found in, let's say, Afghanistan. So that's why it had to attack the Taliban led Afghanistan at that time. Okay, and yes, after, let's say, 9 or 10 years, immediately the US killed the mastermind behind 9/11 attacks, but later on also US stayed in Afghanistan. There are some reasons for that. First, you should understand that Afghanistan government, armed forces, needed support from US and US government and forces in terms of finance, in terms of, we can say, armed forces, to act as a deterrence towards Taliban regaining power again. Okay, so this was one factor. Second factor is that the regional powers like India, China and other countries like Iran, Iraq, okay, so they also to some extent wanted US to remain in Afghanistan so as to ensure peace in Afghanistan and surrounding Asian region. Okay, so these were the important aspect we should understand. Even after killing Osama bin Laden, so US remained in Afghanistan. Okay, so you should be aware about the reasons. Now, benefits of US presence in Afghanistan. So basically the most important benefit is to contain terrorism, and maintain peace in the country and even in the region. So this has been largely successful. Up till now, in last decade, we have seen that reduction in such terrorist activities because of, let's say, deterrence, also counter attacks by the US forces. All these aspects were very important. Okay, so this is important benefit. Second benefit, we can say that the Afghanistan people, so to some extent their rights were upheld, peace ensured, their development, okay, education, health facilities, infrastructure, all other countries started investing in the Afghanistan because US was there, and it ensured the security to its investment. Okay, so all these are the benefits you can mention about US in presence in Afghanistan. Then Biden as a leader has taken many positive steps as a global leader. Now we have seen the 4 years under earlier US president, and the world has witnessed how it may let's say result into the problem when the US leadership is moving towards protectionist approach rather than leading the world. And the new president in US is to some extent has reversed the decisions of the earlier leader, first in terms of rejoining Paris climate deal, we can say, agreement. Second, let's say talks with Iran over its enrichment program. Nuclear enrichment program has regained the traction again, which were, let's say, in 2016-18 there were sanctions on Iran by the earlier president. Third thing is that US and its allies, now US is asking its allies to, we can say, cooperate with it, and it is providing the assurity that it is going to stand behind them whenever the need arises. At the same time, the new leadership has firmly, let's say, conveyed the message to China and Russia that the confrontation will not be tolerated. Confrontation will not be tolerated, and whenever the cooperation is required, it is going to come forward here. Okay, so in this manner, the strong leadership message has been provided by the US. Earlier, there was one article we discussed, right? US has come again, let's say, to regain its position as global leader. We had discussed such article in the Hindu newspaper. To some extent, it is having the similar tone. Okay, yes. So, analysis of the decision to exit Afghanistan. Now, this is also important because whatever the decision taken by the present government or present president is just, he has followed the agreement of the earlier president. Okay, so the US Taliban agreement that happened in February 2020 was under the earlier presidential. Okay, so the present leader is just implementing that agreement. Just he announced the last date of withdrawal, all these aspects has happened. The second thing we should understand here is that the present leader is understanding and acknowledging the ground realities. He is not being idealistic here, in a sense that the the military power of the countries will not be reshaping the other countries in the 21st century. This is the ground reality. This was, we can say, the era of atomic age or 20th century, where the military powers used to reshape the other nations. Okay, so to bring the change in the other nations, the military powers use their, all these, let's say, defense powers, or these countries use their military powers. This is not going to happen. This is ground reality acknowledged by the present leader. Now, in the end, we should also understand that a superpower does not sink or rise on account of single leader, and that too 1 year of leadership. Okay, so we can understand that US is still the largest economic and military power in the world, and we should also understand that a democratic nation should lead the world rather than any other dictatorship, where the people's voice is muzzled and it is not listening to people and their criticism. Okay, so that's why a democratic country like US should lead the world rather than any other country at present for the contendership of superpower. Okay, so yes, US is still superpower and world need its leadership. In this manner, we can conclude here. What kind of question? Yes, a superpower does not sink or rise on account of single leader. Analyze the statement in the context of US decision to exit Afghanistan. So the context is the present leadership in US here and the decisions taken by it. Okay, any question? Okay, India and Russia friendship has stood the test of time, says our Prime Minister. Yes. So he was addressing this Eastern Economic Forum meeting virtually. Okay, so in that, yes, so in this address, he had emphasized on how India-Russia bilateral relationship has grown into different areas. For example, connectivity, space research, shipbuilding. Okay, so the bilateral partnership, strategic bilateral partnership has to some extent redefined in these areas. At the same time, he also emphasized that energy and trade bridge from Vladivostok to Chennai was taking shape. Okay, so we'll have a look at that on particular map also. Now, This forum was set up by decree of Mr. Putin in 2015 to support economic development of Russia's Far East and expand international cooperation in Asia Pacific region. Now we know that Vladivostok is one of the easternmost important city of Russia. You can locate this on map, and this particular maritime route that is being developed between India and Russia. Remember this maritime corridor, Vladivostok is located here on the eastern coast, and in this manner through Strait of Malacca, South China Sea, it is connecting to Chennai. Okay, so Vladivostok to Chennai maritime, eastern maritime corridor. So this is also important, and other through road, we can say maritime link is also there, north-south corridor. Okay, north-south corridor is from western Russia in this manner, like this, it is coming from this side. Okay, so these two important connectivity corridors between Russia and India is working on. Okay. India-US signed project agreement on air-launched UAV, unmanned aerial vehicles. Yes, so this is good development in terms of, we can say, under defense technology and trade initiative. Remember this is the initiative between India and US, defense technology and trade initiative, DTTI. Okay, so this is significant step towards deepening technology collaboration between two nations through co-development of equipment. See how article is using the same words here, co-development of equipment, defense equipments. Then DTTI's main aim was to bring a sustained leadership focus on promoting collaborative technology exchange and creating opportunities for co-development, co-production of future technologies for military forces of both nations. Okay. At the same time, under DTTI, joint working groups on land, naval, air and aircraft carrier technologies had been established to focus on mutually agreed projects in the respective domains. In this manner, this defense technology and trade initiative is important component of bilateral relationship between India and US. Okay, so let me tell you that which are the areas of bilateral cooperation between India and US. Largely, first you should focus on defense relationship. The large focus is on that. You can mention about the different foundational agreements that have been signed between India and US. You can mention about DTTI. The second aspect you should be talking about is the people to people contact is also there. Science and technology, research, there is, let's say, bilateral cooperation. Then you can also talk about the economic aspects, trade related aspects, further investment in each other countries. All these are the broad headings you can mention in terms of, we can say, cooperation. At the same time, the cooperation in recent times have grown in terms of climate change action plan, and recently regarding COVID-19 aspects, especially the vaccine cooperation. Okay, yes. Then experts flag diversion of fresh water from Brahmani river. Now this is also important from environment and geography aspect. So yes, the concern over massive diversion of fresh water from Brahmani river basin, which could pose grave threat to famous mangrove vegetation in Odisha. Okay, so it is talking about Bhitarkanika mangrove forest in Bhitarkanika Wildlife Sanctuary or National Park. It is located near the mouth of Brahmani river, okay, along the eastern coast of India in Odisha state. Now we all know that mangroves grow in brackish water, and for that purpose appropriate supply of fresh water is very important. When the amount of fresh water that is going through near the mouth of the river is reduced, then we can say salinity changes happens, and therefore the unique type of vegetation that is growing there is not going to be growing in future. So what is happening there? Talcher Angul coal mines, steel and power plants, as well as the Kalinganagar steel and power hub is drawing enormous quantities of fresh water from Brahmani river. Now recently in foundation batch we learned about the coal reserves, iron and ore reserves in Odisha. Which are the areas? Yes.
Culture, sir. Culture and
Yes, Talcher, coal is found in Talcher, right? And for iron ore, Keonjhar and Sundargarh districts. Keonjhar and Sundargarh district, and as well as Koraput in Odisha. Okay, so Keonjhar iron ore mines are very famous. So in this manner, that is important for geography also. Now these, let's say, power plants, coal mines, they are requiring more and more fresh waters through these rivers. The fresh water is being diverted for this purpose, and therefore the amount of fresh water that should be flowing into the river to sustain these forests, mangrove forest, so that is reducing. Okay, so what could be the impact here? The lack of normal flow of fresh water would increase saline ingression upstream, and because of that it would affect local flora and fauna as well as livelihood of farmers and fishermen who are much dependent on that mangrove forests. The second aspect, there will be man crocodile conflict, because Bhitarkanika is also one of the important, we can say, habitat for saltwater crocodiles. Saltwater crocodiles. Okay, so that is important. So man crocodile conflict may happen. At the same time, they may, let's say, leave the core sanctuary area and migrate upstream once salinity increases. So this is how we should understand the impact here. In general, you should be aware that UPSC has already asked question in mains examination on mangrove forest in GS1 paper. Okay, so mangrove vegetation distribution in India. Quickly we will have a look at all these locations. The major locations are two locations. First, Sundarbans. Second, Gulf of Kutch. Major locations. Minor locations, Gulf of Kambat is there, and largely located along the eastern coast. You can see near the delta of major rivers. Like you can see Bhitarkanika is mentioned, Mahanadi is mentioned, Godavari, Krishna, and then you can see that in Tamil Nadu also near the mouth of Kaveri river. So in this manner you should remember on the eastern coast more mangrove forests as compared to western coast. On the western coast near Mumbai, Ratnagiri in Maharashtra, Goa and Karwar in Karnataka. Okay, so these are the important locations. On the islands, the major mangrove forests are found in Andaman and Nicobar also. Okay, so three important locations: Sundarbans, Gulf of Kutch, Andaman and Nicobar. Then you can mention near the mouths of important peninsular rivers along the eastern coast. Okay, now specifically this Bhitarkanika forest, you can see here. This is the course of Brahmani river, like this. It is met before flowing into the river. Baitarni river, north of Brahmani river is there. Together Damra river it is called. Okay, so it is reaching to the Bay of Bengal like this. Now you can see that this Baitarni river, this region is Bhitarkanika forest, mangrove forest. Okay, and Damra port is very famous. Riverine port is there. Damra port along the eastern coast. Okay, this particular area is also important location for, we can say, olive ridley turtles and their hatching, annual hatching, mass hatching that happens. Aribada, earlier we have learned this in the Hindu newspaper analysis also. Okay, so near mouth of Baitarni, Brahmani rivers, as well as you should be remembering the locations like near the mouth of, we can say, Rushikulya river, near the mouth of Mahanadi river. These are the important locations. Okay. Footprints of 3 dinosaur species found in Thar desert. So this is important in terms of geography. Yes, so dinosaurs footprints are found, and they the 3 species of dinosaurs, their footprints is found. They belong to Jurassic period and all of them were carnivorous. This is how the experts are talking about these findings. Thar deserts near Jaisalmer. Okay, so at present we see that Thar desert is having severely arid conditions, but this was not always the case in the geological past of the earth. So we know that during the Mesozoic era or Jurassic period 200 million years ago, there was, let's say, breaking of Pangaea into Laurasia on the north side and Gondwana land on the southern side, right? So in between there was Tethys Sea. In between there was Tethys Sea, and this Tethys Sea, on the southern side of Tethys Sea, it was adjoined by the northwestern Indian peninsula that we have at present. That is Thar desert, location of Thar desert. Okay, so you should remember that at that time, so climatic conditions were very much different on the Indian peninsula. Indian peninsula migrated from southern hemisphere to the northern hemisphere over the period of time after breaking of Gondwana land. Okay, so we learn this in geography. You can refer to NCERT, 11th standard NCERT also talk about, let's say, continental drift theory or plate tectonics theory. All this explains these aspects. Okay, yes. Then biological e-jab gets nod for trial among children. So biological E Limited is Hyderabad based company, and its vaccine named Corbevax, okay, Corbevax, Corbevax, on children and adolescents. So the clinical trials will happen now. It has got approval from the regulatory authority. So this is third such vaccine. Earlier Zydus Cadilla's vaccine and Covaxin by Bharat Biotech, they have also received the approval for such trials. At the same time, let's say Zydus Cadilla's vaccine already received the emergency use authorization for children about 12 years of age. Okay, so this is just a follow up for COVID-19. So what should be answer to this question? Very simple.
C.
Such map based, location based question can be asked, which are locations which are in news. Okay, so Bhitarkanika Wildlife Sanctuary is situated near the mouth of which of the following river? All four rivers you can see along nearby each other along the eastern coast. So Damodar river, yes, it is in West Bengal. Then Mahanadi, Brahmani and Rushikulya in Odisha, south of it. So yes, Brahmani river is correct. Just now we have discussed it. Okay, so remember, try to locate all of them on the map atlas. Okay, yes. Now there was one query yesterday's comment box of the YouTube video of the Hindu analysis, and it was talking about CJI is seen in that particular photo administering oath to Supreme Court judges, and we all know that the oath is administered in the presence of president. So president administers the oath here, but yes, there is option also. The other person who is appointed for this particular task, he can be also doing that task, and in this particular case the president might have, let's say, delegated this particular task to Chief Justice of India for administering oath. But you should remember that Supreme Court judges as well as High Court judges, they are appointed by the president. That means the appointment letter will have sign of president, not CJI. Okay, remember this particular fact here. Fine, any question?
Sir, in IR section, they need why is going to be need a leader of the USS? Sorry, why is going to be need a leader of USS? Then what is the use of their for themselves? They came to Afghanistan for the after desertion of 2 hours. After they are evacuated, then what is the use of for the only for the security purpose? They are everyone is going to be asking USA as a security leader. Otherwise, what is the use of USA? remaining section?
See, every country takes some decisions related to, let's say, foreign policy, largely focused on, let's say, the country's own interest, national interest. And for US, it is security. For US, it is important aspect is security, national security. Okay, so all these decisions were taken first considering the national security, and then we can say that the other aspects. Leadership, global leadership aspect is not limited to, we can say, domestic interest or national interest. It is also, we can say, the long term vision of the country. Okay, so try to understand, it is also helping other countries in terms of economic aspect. Also, we can say that when the country is promoting world peace by taking such actions. Okay, just now we discussed the significance of US in Afghanistan. It has to some extent helped in ensuring peace, and now when it is exiting, we can see the condition, right? So this is the requirement, we can say, of such military and economic power to lead the world here at present. At the same time, we should also understand that US is a democratic country, and when we say that democratic country, it is going to listen to other democratic countries in the world. Okay, so it has to listen to other democratic country, otherwise its credibility will not be there. And it has been listening. There are some, let's say, wrong decisions taken by leadership from time to time. We have seen Vietnam, let's say, debacle also in 1970s. At the same time, this one is also being called as failure, but it is to some extent successful also. Will not call it as complete failure. Remember always, you should not use such words in your answers. It is failure of US and all.
Not a failure, but they are not able to fulfill what the local people has been required.
The ideological objective, they had said that they will, let's say, create a country on the basis of democratic principle. So that ideological objective is failed now. Okay? Yes. Any other question? Okay then, we'll meet on Monday. Fine. Thank you.
Contact us to avail the combo offer of General Studies and Public Administration optional with 20% discount.